The frozen Great Xinghan Mountains are one of the coldest places in China. During the 7 months of winter, the temperatures are known to drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius. Brief spells of sunshine, inhospitable forests, scarcity of food, and the kind of cold that can freeze your breath. All the makings of a harsh natural environment. Survival is the greatest challenge for every creature here. Shaoliangku stands on the snow. This is where his ancestors, the Ewenki people, built their homes 4,000 years ago. With a whistle made of birch bark, Xiao calls the reindeers out of the forest. In order to survive the cold weather, the Ewenki and the reindeer, an undomesticated animal, form a rather interesting relationship. The Ewenki use the fur of the reindeer for clothing and tent material during the cold months. In return, the humans give them food and salt, both of which are hard to come by in the forest during winters. Survival, the eternal theme of the planet. In order to survive, humans have fought against, compromised, and developed together with nature. In the end, they engineered a profound and complicated self-protection mechanism: civilization. Compared to a few billion years of natural history, the history of human civilization, which spans just 10,000 years, seems short and fragile. How can we ensure that civilization continues to develop? This is a universal question, relevant to people from all races. Early in the morning, Jai Wunan and his little sister have come to the frozen river 5 kilometers from the village. In March, temperatures in the Pamirs have already risen above 0 degrees. They are going to spread a layer of soil on the ice so that when the sun comes up, the soil absorbs the heat from it and thaws the ice. Jiawunan is Tajik. In Tajik, Pamir means the rooftop of the world. Tian Mountain, Kunlun Mountain, the Himalayas and hundreds of snow-capped mountains with an elevation of more than 6,000 meters all gather into a big cluster of mountains here. The air rarefies as we go higher. At places that are 4,000 meters above sea level, even trees find it difficult to thrive. On the rock-littered surface of this glacial plain, there is not much to prey upon. If one can neither hunt nor gather food here, how can a human survive? The blood of this ram being dipped into the river indicates the start of the most important festival here, the water drawing festival. As if to provide some kind of compensation for putting them through so much ordeal, nature gives a precious gift of water to the Tajik. A large quantity of water around Jia's village is preserved in the form of glaciers. There are over 1,000 glaciers in the Pamirs, altogether covering an area up to 10,000 square kilometers, about 1/3 the size of Hainan province. During spring and summer, an abundance of meltwater from the snow and ice provides hope for the people struggling to live in this wasteland. About 3,000 years ago, Jia's ancestors began to domesticate highland barley and wheat here. Growing crops 4,000 meters above sea level is a totally different story from growing them on the plain. One of the differences is the lack of rain all year round. The average precipitation here is less than 1/7 of that received in northern China. Therefore, the only source of irrigation is water drawn from man-made canal. It takes the effort of the whole village to dig the canal. Every spring, all the villagers get involved, breaking the ice, drawing water, levelling the field around the canal. Women are responsible for preparing 3 days' worth of food for the men, while the men, no matter how young, have to participate in the work. The weather varies a lot on the plateau, where it is possible to experience spring and winter within the same day. If the sowing is not completed within the shortest possible period of time, all face the risk of starvation in the future. Growing crops meant a stable and continuous supply of food. But it also means more work and a greater risk compared to hunting and gathering food from nature. Humans diverted the river to draw water to the fields, worked on the soil to make it suitable for farming. Most crops were once grasses and weeds, which often had thin grains that the wind and insects could carry large distances. On the Eurasian continent, it took humans up to 8,000 years to turn these grasses into heavy ears of rice and wheat. This battle against nature, which has lasted for thousands of years, has no doubt been a test of courage and will for any ethnic group. During the last rite of the water drawing festival, riders will scramble for sheep, Normally in this sport, common on the plateau, riders on horses will compete with each other in fighting for food. This is a fight of speed and endurance. However, during the festival, riders will ride not on horses, but yaks that are used for ploughing the fields. A yak is unrulier than a horse. The slightest mistake can result in the rider paying a heavy price or serious injury. This dangerous game is more of a test than a mere sport. The danger of nature has taught every Tajik that only those who are smarter than an eagle, slyer than a fox, and stronger than a yak can survive in this wilderness. But the battle between man and nature isn't confined to just the highland wilderness. Sometimes you can find it on a humble leaf. Yunnan province lies on the southwest borderland of China. Plentiful rainfall, dense vegetation and year-round pleasant weather conditions are some of the reasons why it was the earliest inhabited area in China and possibly even Asia. Every morning, Chen Gang arrives at the nursery where 300 well-groomed indigo plants are blooming under the sun. It is the common name for Strobilanthes. In China, this plant sprouts little blue flowers that can be made into herbal tea called banglagen. It can also be used as a dye. This man is Chen Gang. He lives in a small town of Zhoucheng, located at the foot of Tung Mountain. It is the largest settlement of the Bai ethnic group in China. The Bai people have been using plant dyes for almost 900 years. They soak the leaves in water for a week. In the presence of water molecules, the leaves slowly release the dye. Lime is put into the water because cyanophil turns blue when it interacts with an alkaline substance. After stirring and smashing it over and over again, they get some sediment, the dye Chinese people have been using for millennia, indigo. Blue, the colour most commonly seen in nature, yet at the same time the scarcest colour on the planet. While the oceans and skies are blue, you rarely see this colour on living beings. There are only 30 species of plant on Earth that produce blue flowers. To extract the colour blue from this plant, you need experience and wisdom, and sometimes it also requires responsibility and emotion.
在那个我们大直起早部的时候是把那个这个是追了，发现有一家他种了一排，就把这种这花盆里面一排以后把它发殖出来了。
Chen Gan's passion for tie-dye was greatly influenced by his mother, who has spent most of her life bleaching, dyeing and embroidering ever since she got married at the age of 16. To leave an undyed white pattern on a blue cloth, you must first stitch and tie the cloth before dipping it into the dye. You also need to hide imperfections like the needle's eyes in the cloth texture. Her vision has been damaged by 60 years of sewing. Before she went completely blind, she asked Chen to dye a cloth with the indigo blue. The locals have a saying, there are 3 pieces of clothes in one's life: the baby's swaddling clothes, the bride's trousseau, and the shroud of the elderly. This is the first time Chen's mother has ever made a request from him. 60 years ago, she married his father with the clothes dyed by herself as her trousseau. Over 50 years ago, she made little Chen Gang's clothes with the dyed cloths. Now that she is too old to die, Chen knows it is time for him to fulfill her wish. Hand-woven, homespun clothes are the most comfortable to wear, and these clothes dyed with natural plants might as well be the best representation of her whole life as a hard-working and honest person. Kinship and responsibility have given Chen Gang the wisdom to turn something rare into something beautiful. Thousands of miles away, it is the same emotion that gives Dong Baoying the courage to challenge this cliff. Dong Baoying stands on the ridge, facing the 400 kilometers along Taihang Mountains. The Taihang Mountains stand between North China Plain and the Loess Plateau. The drop between the towering peaks and the vast plains is a stunning 1,500 meters. People have been coming here to escape the violence of war because of the shelter that these huge cliffs and deep rifts provide. Several centuries ago, Dong's ancestors moved to this isolated mountainous area. It might be isolated, but this is no utopia. With their food harvested from crops grown on small plots of land by the cliff, villagers oftentimes can't get adequate nutrition. Whenever they suffer any serious disease, they risk dying before they can reach the closest hospital on a stretcher. The road Dong mentioned is this tunnel, 7.5 kilometers long, suspended 200 meters above land. The villagers worked their way through the rock of the precipices with their hammers and chisels. On the day the tunnel finally broke through the mountain, Dong's father was hit by the last rock that fell off the top of the tunnel. Chinese parents are willing to give up their lives for their children. This is part of their nature, and what makes Dong Baoying once again embark on the journey to conquer the mountain. Dong Baoying is going to collect Polygonum multiflorum for his pregnant daughter. Chinese traditional medicine prescribes it for enhancing blood circulation and helping women produce more milk. Wild plants only survive in the jungle or on the mountainside. Some Chinese even refer to it as the medicine from heaven because it is extremely difficult to procure. Dong's life now depends on this 100-meter-long rope. After the opening of the cliff highway, the small village is no longer isolated. The herb became a new way of making money for the villagers because of the demand, leading it to become increasingly scarce. Throughout that spring, the family had been looking forward to the grandchild being born. For the elderly, the happiest thing is to watch their offspring, the continuity of their withering life, continue to grow. The family continues its legacy with the birth of younger generations. After 10 days of searching in the mountains, Dong finally found one growing on a cliff that is almost impossible for any human to climb. Stories of his ancestors fighting against nature at this isolated place makes Dong understand he has to triumph over nature. As the father, he is the one to provide his family with sustenance. The herb Dong risked his life for to collect has been made into medicine, which helped his daughter produce more milk for her child. Watching them, Dong feels that everything he's done has been worth it. Family, a word that represents warmth and responsibility for the Chinese people. In order to give their loved ones a better life, they are ready to make a warm and safe home, even in the most hostile of environments. This humble wish of protecting their loved ones has turned into a great power to change nature. But sometimes, one still meets obstacles and risks along the way. June weather makes the most beautiful time of year on Changtang Plateau. Encircled by Kunlun Mountains, Tanggula Mountains and Kailas Range, the Nagshu River is like a silver ribbon meandering through pastures. Daja is the best rider on the plateau. He trains the horses, one of which won last year's racing championship. This winter, Daja and his family have been training hard, trying to win again. 'The secret of training lies in the muscles and breathing. After a dash, Daja immediately leads the horse into icy cold water so that it stimulates its heart into expanding rapidly. He splashes water on the horse again and again to relax and tighten its muscles. Such training can improve the horse's muscle strength and toughness, and by employing cardiorespiratory fitness training, he also increases its speed and endurance. There is a saying that has been around for generations on the plateau. The horse is the offspring of birds and fish. So letting the horse soak in wind and water can help it obtain the power of its ancestors. As a matter of fact, this training method does come from the herder's many years' worth of life experience. On Changtang Plateau, 4,500 meters above sea level, the air contains less oxygen, half of that than in the air of the plains. Thousands of years of living at high altitude has resulted in the herders developing strong adaptability. Breathing, for 10-year-old Li Rufeng, is not only a survival instinct, but a way of knowing the world. Born with amblyopia, the world in his eyes is only a bunch of vague shadows. So smelling and hearing became his way of feeling the world. Li Rufeng lives in Guangzhou, a mega city of 16 million people by the Pearl River, covering an area of over 7,000 square kilometers. For him, this concrete forest is like a real jungle with many dangers. Noise, dust and vehicle exhaust are like monsters haunting his nightmares. In 2015, Guangzhou Tram Company, the organization Linjia works for, decided to organize an event to turn the trams into a dreamy space. So they solicited 100 children's dreams in Guangzhou.
我希望用鼻子认识广州，感受大自然的味道。广州市盲人学校4年2班李瑞峰。
What does the city smell like? How to experience nature on the track? Li Rufeng's dream became Linjia's problem. But this was a problem she had to solve because it might help a child understand nature, the adult world, or even our civilization. On the plateau, Daja and his horse have begun their final training session before the race. To maintain the momentum from the training, the horse has to be kept alone at the stables, and Daja will also need to fast. He isn't even allowed to have sex with his wife. To win the race, the horse and the rider must bond with each other. They can do their best only when winning is not just a command from the rider, but also the will of the horse. To win this is to win not just a race, but honor and wealth as well. When he won the championship last year, someone offered to pay 700,000 yuan to buy his horse. Speed, honor, wealth. But is this all that we seek?
所以呢，这个展览它叫
Wang has been giving much thought to this issue for a few years now. As the associate curator of the Guangzhou Times Museum, she hopes to redefine people's understanding of this city. To do that, she has chosen one of the most unique mediums, smell.
其实气味呢，是我们最早去接触世界的一个渠道。比如说婴儿，他的眼睛还没有睁开，他就通过气味、嗅觉，闻到妈妈的这个味道。
She began to redefine the city where she grew up. Through food, clothing, construction, vehicles and people. Everything in this city. The greatest creation of human beings. She smelled a larger, more solid presence. Nature.
我们每天呼吸23000多次，然后移动大概12.5平方米的空气。随着我们的每一次呼吸，然后细微的分子都会进入到我们的身体，甚至是在我们入睡了之后，这个气味还是会进入到我们体内的每一个细胞。
Cities, the signs and symbols of a civilization, represent the pinnacle of human imagination and creativity. But when human ambition flies to larger, higher, and wider space, nature melts their wax wings in a second. The cities can decay and disappear. Skyscrapers can degrade into wilderness. But it is nature that will always stand the test of time. Inspired by her thoughts, Lily created the work Urban Smell. Through it, she wants to express that what we are doing is not to protect the environment or to save nature, but to save ourselves.
上的这些车有没有闻到什么味道呀？有啊。你觉得是什么味道呢？大概有什么味道？大概还是草的味道。还是草的味道。它有一股花的味道，再加上一股薯片的味道。请小心列车。
Lily's work is put in the car. This is also the moment that Li Rufeng's dream comes true. Wang Lili brought her daughter to the tram. When it started, she covered her eyes with a red cloth. Parents participating in the activity also followed suit. To do so is not only to make the children's sense of smell more acute. More importantly, it's because they didn't want Li Rufeng to feel inferior while he was realizing his dream. Expend the respect of the aged in one's family to that of other families, and the love of the young ones in one's family to that of other families, is a thought treasured in Chinese civilization. Such compassion can sometimes cross boundaries between animals and humans. On June 30th, people celebrated the horse racing festival with the most solemn of ceremonies on Changtang Plateau. We couldn't find Dajia's name on the racing list. Someone said he was afraid his horse would lose the race and its value would be affected. But others insist that a horse is like a friend and a part of the family. No matter how high the price, they just didn't want to separate their family. Summer on the prairie is beautiful yet brief. The land becomes white after the first snow of the year. The Ewenki people are ready to move on again.
明天搬家，明天，明天好天，看这样那个星星，它月亮，明天能晴天。
行，可以搬家，该搬家了。这都多长时间了？
那啥就得先拆跟前这个帐篷，跟前这个。
行，
先拆这个。
明天就只能拆一个帐篷。
行，那明天上午搬。
To the Ewenki, moving is to follow the footsteps of reindeer and migrate in the forest. For thousands of years, the Ewenki and the reindeer have lived together in this snowy forest. They have never tried to domesticate the reindeer. For them, the reindeer are not just animals, but a spiritual family and friend. Live peacefully with all creatures. Connect to the natural world with an open mind. Find a silver lining for every cloud with a sense of responsibility and emotion. With this simple faith, the Chinese not only establish harmony between different ethnic groups, but also extend it to their relationship with nature. After thousands of years of being tested and passed down, this philosophy has been integrated into the blood of the Chinese people. It can be summed up as being at one with the universe. The Kizil Caves are located at the edge of China's largest desert, the Taklamakan. As one of China's 4 famous Buddhist caves, it preserves 236 rock-cut grottos built from the 3rd century AD to the 11th century AD, and are also home to murals covering more than 10,000 square meters of space. These murals are records of the desert's history and civilization. Amut Rahman started working as a watchman here in 1993. All he can hear in the desert is the wind, but what almost drives him crazy is not the loneliness or the harsh conditions, but the sight of yellow everywhere. Yellow sand, yellow rock, and yellow skies. He was the only living being in a 30-kilometer radius. Rahman found that he was sick of living in a place without any green color. So he planted over 300 seedlings as a way to maintain his vitality. But drought, high salinity, and alkalinity quickly killed most of the saplings. By the following year, only one elm tree survived. Rahman and the elm tree constitute the smallest oasis in the Tarim Basin. This touch of green that has accompanied Rahman for 20 years signifies not only life, but also hope and a future.